Intern spilled coffee on a stranger, not knowing it was the Billionaire Tycoon. Maya Chen clutched her worn leather portfolio against her chest as she navigated the crowded sidewalks of Lower Manhattan. The October morning air carried the crisp promise of autumn, mixing with the familiar symphony of honking taxis, construction noise, and the endless chatter of 8 million New Yorkers beginning their day. Her sneakers squeaked against the damp pavement as she quickened her pace, checking her phone for the third time in 2 minutes. 47 a.m. 13 minutes to make it to Goldman & Associates for her first day as a marketing intern. The coffee shop, on the corner of Wall Street, buzzed with the pre-market rush. Traders in expensive suits barked orders into their phones while baristas worked with mechanical precision behind the espresso machine. Maya squeezed between two men discussing quarterly projections, her heart hammering as she approached the counter. "Large coffee, black to go," she said breathlessly, fishing crumpled bills from her jacket pocket. The barista, a woman with purple streaks in her hair and tired eyes, slid the steaming cup across the marble counter. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she grasped the cup. 3 years of college, countless unpaid internships, and student loans that made her stomach churn had led to this moment. Her parents had immigrated from Taiwan with nothing but determination and the belief that America rewarded hard work. Now their daughter stood on the precipice of her dreams, literally blocks away from one of the most prestigious marketing firms in the city. The revolving door of the coffee shop spun lazily as she pushed through, juggling her portfolio, purse, and the precious caffeine that would fuel her through whatever challenges awaited. The sidewalk outside teemed with purposeful energy. Everyone seemed to know exactly where they belonged in this concrete jungle. Maya stepped forward, her mind racing through the presentation she'd practiced in the mirror that morning. She'd researched every client, memorized the company's mission statement, and even practiced her handshake. Nothing could go wrong now. That's when she collided with him. The impact sent her coffee cup flying in a perfect arc, its contents splashing across the chest of a tall man in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit. Dark liquid spread across the expensive fabric like spilled ink on pristine paper. Maya watched in horror as the empty cup clattered to the sidewalk, rolling pathetically against his polished Italian leather shoes. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." The words tumbled out in a rush as she frantically searched her purse for napkins. "I wasn't looking where I was going, and I'm already late for my first day," and the man stood perfectly still, looking down at his ruined shirt with an expression she couldn't quite read. He was probably in his early 40s, with dark hair slightly graying at the temples and eyes the color of storm clouds. There was something commanding about his presence, the way other pedestrians unconsciously gave him space even in the crowded street. "Please, let me help," Maya continued, finding a crumpled tissue and reaching toward his chest before catching herself. "I can pay for dry cleaning, or maybe there's a shop nearby where you can—" "It's fine," he said quietly, his voice carrying a subtle authority that made her words die in her throat. He glanced at his watch, a sleek piece that probably cost more than her semester's tuition. These things happen. Maya felt heat creep up her neck. This stranger's calm response somehow made her clumsiness feel even more mortifying. "At least let me buy you another coffee, or—" "Really, it's fine." He adjusted his cufflinks with practiced ease, as if designer suits were regularly baptized by clumsy strangers. "You mentioned being late for your first day. You should go." Kindness in his suggestion caught her off guard. Most New Yorkers would have unleashed a torrent of creative profanity. Instead, this man, this well-dressed stranger whose morning she'd thoroughly ruined, was encouraging her to salvage her own day. "Thank you," she whispered, backing away slowly. "Again, I'm really sorry." He nodded once, a ghost of a smile playing at the corners of his mouth, before turning and disappearing into the crowd, with the fluid grace of someone accustomed to navigating the city's chaos. Maya stood frozen for a moment, watching his retreating figure blend into the sea of suits and briefcases. Then reality crashed back. 8:52 a.m. 8 minutes to reach Goldman and Associates and somehow transform from coffee-spilling disaster into competent marketing intern. She ran. The Goldman and Associates building rose 37 floors above the financial district, its glass facade reflecting the morning sun like a mirror of ambition. Maya burst through the revolving doors at exactly 8:59 a.m., her chest heaving as she approached the marble reception desk, where a woman with perfect posture and an even more perfect smile waited. "Maya Chen, marketing intern," she gasped, smoothing down her hair and trying to look professional despite having sprinted 6 blocks. "Of course, Miss Chen. I'm Rebecca, the executive assistant. Mr. Goldman is expecting you in conference room." Rebecca's voice carried the crisp efficiency of someone who managed chaos for a living. "Take the elevator to the 23rd floor. You'll find coffee and pastries set up for the orientation." Maya's stomach clenched at the mention of coffee, but she managed a grateful smile. "Thank you." The elevator's mirrored walls reflected her flushed face and slightly disheveled appearance. She used the 40-second ride to straighten her blazer and practice her introduction. "Hi, I'm Maya Chen, and I'm thrilled to be joining the Goldman team as a marketing intern." The 23rd floor buzzed with controlled energy. Glass offices lined the perimeter, offering glimpses of serious-faced professionals hunched over computers or speaking intensely into phones. The central workspace featured an open floor plan where younger employees, presumably other interns and junior associates, worked at sleek white desks. Conference Room A sat at the corner, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the Hudson River. Inside, 8 other interns sat around a polished conference table, nursing coffee cups and making nervous small talk. Maya slipped inside, claiming an empty chair near the window. "Cutting it close," whispered the young man beside her. He had sandy hair and the eager expression of someone who'd probably arrived 30 minutes early. "I'm Jake Martinez, Northwestern." "Maya Chen, NYU," she replied, grateful for the friendly face. "And yes, definitely cutting it close. Long story, involving spilled coffee and a very understanding stranger." Jake grinned. "New York's full of those kinds of stories. My first week here, I got lost in the subway system and ended up in Queens instead of Manhattan. Had to take a $40 Uber to make it to a client meeting." Before Maya could respond, the conference room door opened, and a woman in her 50s entered with the commanding presence of someone accustomed to boardrooms and high-stakes negotiations. Her silver hair was pulled back in an elegant chignon, and her navy suit spoke of expensive taste and serious business. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Patricia Goldman, founding partner of Goldman and Associates." Her voice filled the room effortlessly. "You represent the next generation of marketing talent, carefully selected from hundreds of applicants. Over the next 6 months, you'll be working directly with our clients, contributing to campaigns that reach millions of consumers, and hopefully learning what it takes to succeed in this industry." Maya straightened in her chair, her earlier disaster temporarily forgotten as Patricia outlined the internship program. They would rotate through different departments, work on real client projects, and present their findings to senior partners. The top-performing intern would receive a full-time job offer upon graduation. "Your first assignment," Patricia continued, "will be market research for our newest client. They're expanding their operations and need comprehensive analysis of consumer behavior patterns across 3 major demographics." She gestured to a stack of folders on the table. "Each team will focus on a different segment. Maya and Jake, you'll be analyzing millennial purchasing habits in the tech sector." Maya felt a surge of excitement as she accepted the thick folder. Real work, real responsibility, real opportunity to prove herself. This was everything she'd dreamed of during those late nights in the library, fueled by instant ramen and determination. "Questions?" Patricia asked, scanning the room. A confident-looking intern from Columbia raised her hand. "Who's the client?" Patricia smiled mysteriously. "That information is confidential for now. You'll be briefed on a need-to-know basis as the project develops. What I can tell you is that they're a major player in multiple industries with annual revenues in the billions. This is exactly the kind of high-profile work that can make careers." The room buzzed with excited whispers. Maya exchanged a thrilled glance with Jake, her mind already racing with research strategies and presentation ideas. The morning's embarrassing encounter felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by the possibilities. Stretching ahead. One more thing, Patricia added, her expression growing serious. Professionalism is paramount in this industry. Our clients expect excellence in every interaction, from the boardroom to chance encounters on the street. Your reputation is your most valuable asset. Guard it carefully. Maya nodded along with the others, but something about Patricia's emphasis on chance encounters sent an odd chill down her spine. She shook off the feeling, attributing it to first-day nerves and caffeine withdrawal. As the orientation concluded, Maya gathered her materials with renewed confidence. She had work to do, impressions to make, and a future to build. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them head-on. After all, what were the odds of running into that coffee-stained stranger again in a city of 8 million people? 3 weeks into her internship, Maya had found her rhythm. She arrived at the office by 7:30 a.m. each morning, armed with research findings and the kind of eager determination that made senior associates take notice. Her analysis of millennial tech purchasing patterns had impressed Patricia Goldman enough to earn her a spot on the client presentation team. The Goldman & Associates office had become her second home. She knew which elevator moved fastest during rush hour, had memorized the barista's rotation at the lobby coffee cart, and could navigate the maze of glass offices blindfolded. Her desk in the intern bullpen overlooked the courtyard, where she sometimes watched harried executives taking phone calls while pacing between the carefully manicured shrubs. "Maya, conference room in 5, Jake called from across the workspace, waving a manila folder. "Patricia wants to run through the presentation one more time before the client meeting." Maya saved her work and gathered her materials, heart racing, with anticipation. Today was the day they would finally meet the mysterious client whose project had consumed her thoughts for weeks. The research had revealed fascinating patterns in consumer behavior, and she was eager to share her insights with the decision-makers who could actually implement their recommendations. Conference Room A had been transformed for the occasion. The usual scattered papers and half-empty coffee cups had been replaced by leather portfolios, crystal water glasses, and an elaborate spread of pastries from the expensive bakery down the street. Fresh flowers adorned the center of the table, and the morning light streaming through the windows cast everything in a professional glow. Patricia entered with her usual commanding presence, followed by 2 senior associates Maya recognized but had never formally met. "Everyone ready?" she asked, straightening her suit jacket. "Remember, this client values direct communication and innovative thinking. Don't be afraid to speak up if you have insights to share." Maya nodded, clutching her presentation notes. She'd practiced her section until she could deliver it flawlessly, backing up every claim with solid data and actionable recommendations. This was her moment to prove she belonged in this world of high-stakes marketing and billion-dollar decisions. "They should be here any—" Patricia's words were interrupted by Rebecca's voice over the intercom. "Ms. Goldman, your clients have arrived. Send them in." Maya straightened in her chair, hands folded professionally on the table, smile polished and ready. The conference room door opened, and Rebecca stepped aside to allow the clients to enter. The first man through the door wore a navy suit that probably cost more than Maya's car. He had the bearing of someone accustomed to boardrooms and corner offices, with graying hair and the kind of confident handshake that sealed million-dollar deals. But it was the second man who made Maya's world tilt sideways. Charcoal suit, storm gray eyes, the same commanding presence that had made pedestrians unconsciously step aside 3 weeks ago on Wall Street. The man whose expensive shirt she'd baptized with coffee stood in Conference Room A, scanning the assembled team with the casual authority of someone who owned whatever room he entered. Their eyes met across the polished table, and Maya watched, recognition flicker across his features. His expression remained perfectly neutral, but she caught the slight pause before he took his seat directly across from her. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet our clients," Patricia announced with obvious pride. "This is David Morrison, Chief Operating Officer, and Alexander Cross, CEO of Cross Industries. Alexander Cross. Maya's mind raced as the name clicked into place. Cross Industries, the tech conglomerate whose innovations had revolutionized everything from smartphones to sustainable energy. Annual revenues approaching $50 billion. A company whose CEO regularly appeared on the covers of business magazines and whose opinions moved markets. The same man she'd doused with coffee while rushing to her first day of work. Maya felt the blood drain from her face as Alexander Cross extended his hand to each team member, working his way around the table with practiced professionalism. When he reached her, his handshake was firm but brief, his expression giving nothing away. "Maya Chen," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ms. Chen." His tone was perfectly cordial, exactly what she'd expect from a CEO meeting an intern for the first time. No hint of their previous encounter, no acknowledgement of the humiliating scene that had replayed in her mind countless times over the past 3 weeks. Patricia launched into the presentation, outlining their research methodology and key findings. Maya tried to focus on the familiar material, but her thoughts kept drifting to the man sitting across from her. How had she not recognized him that morning? His picture had been in Forbes just last month, discussing Cross Industries' expansion into renewable energy markets, because she'd been too panicked about being late, too focused on her own problems, to pay attention to the stranger whose morning she'd ruined, and now that stranger held her professional future in his hands. "Maya will now present our analysis of millennial consumer behavior patterns," Patricia announced, jolting her back to the present. Maya stood on unsteady legs, moving to the front of the room where her carefully prepared slides waited on the smartboard. Every eye in the room focused on her, but she felt the weight of Alexander Cross's attention most acutely. "Our research indicates 3 primary factors driving millennial purchasing decisions in the tech sector," she began, her voice growing stronger as she fell into the familiar rhythm of her presentation. "Price sensitivity remains important, but it's increasingly balanced against brand values alignment and user experience quality." As she spoke, Maya found her confidence returning. This was her expertise, her passion, her chance to prove that the clumsy intern who'd spilled coffee on a stranger could deliver valuable insights to one of the most successful CEOs in America. She outlined consumer trend data, demographic breakdowns, and behavioral pattern analysis with increasing assurance. By the time she reached her recommendations section, she had forgotten about everything, except the thrill of sharing work she genuinely believed in. Based on these findings, Maya concluded, "We recommend a targeted campaign emphasizing Cross Industries' commitment to sustainable innovation, specifically highlighting how your products align with millennial values while delivering superior performance." The room fell silent for a moment. Maya returned to her seat, heart pounding as she waited for feedback. Alexander Cross leaned forward slightly, his storm gray eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Interesting analysis, Ms. Chen. Can you elaborate on the correlation between brand values alignment and customer retention rates?" His question was sharp, probing, exactly what she'd expect from someone who'd built a business empire. Maya felt a surge of gratitude that he was treating her as a professional, not acknowledging their embarrassing first meeting. "Absolutely," she replied, accessing her supplementary data. "Our research shows that millennials who feel aligned with a brand's stated values demonstrate 23% higher customer lifetime value and are 31% more likely to recommend products to their social networks." For the next 20 minutes, Maya fielded questions from both executives, her nervousness gradually replaced by the exhilaration of intellectual discourse. Alexander Cross asked particularly insightful questions, pushing her to defend her conclusions and explore implications she hadn't initially considered. As the meeting concluded, Patricia beamed with pride. "Excellent work, team. I think we've given Mr. Cross and Mr. Morrison plenty to consider." Alexander Cross stood, adjusting his cufflinks with the same practiced gesture Maya remembered from their sidewalk encounter. "Indeed. We'll be in touch with our decision shortly." He shook hands with each team member again, and when he reached Maya, he paused for just a moment longer than the others. "Well done, Ms. Chen," he said quietly, his voice carrying a note she couldn't quite identify. "Very impressive work." As the executives left the conference room, Maya sank into her chair, emotionally drained but oddly exhilarated. She'd survived. Presenting to one of the most powerful men in business, the same man she'd accidentally assaulted with coffee just 3 weeks earlier. Jake nudged her shoulder. "You killed it in there. Did you see how engaged he was with your analysis? I think we might actually land this account." Maya nodded absently, her mind still processing the surreal turn her morning had taken. Alexander. Cross had treated her with complete professionalism, given no indication that he remembered their previous encounter. She should feel relieved, so why did she find herself wondering what he was really thinking behind those storm-gray eyes? The call came at 6:47 a.m. on a Thursday morning, jolting Maya from the deep sleep of someone who'd been staying late at the office perfecting market analysis reports. She fumbled for her phone, squinting at Rebecca's name on the caller ID. "Maya, I'm sorry to call so early, but we need you in the office immediately. Something's come up with the Cross Industries account." Maya sat up, instantly alert. "Is everything okay? Did we lose the account?" "Just the opposite. Mr. Cross specifically requested that you join today's strategy meeting. Patricia wants you here in an hour." After Rebecca hung up, Maya stared at her phone in disbelief. Alexander Cross had specifically requested her presence at a strategy meeting. The same man whose shirt she'd ruined with coffee 4 weeks ago was now seeking her professional input on what could be the biggest account in Goldman & Associates history. She showered and dressed with unusual care, selecting her most professional suit and spending extra time on her hair and makeup. Whatever this meeting entailed, she was determined to prove herself worthy of the opportunity. The Goldman & Associates building hummed with early morning energy as Maya arrived at 7:45 a.m. The executive floor, typically quiet at this hour, buzzed with activity. Senior partners huddled in clusters, speaking in the urgent whispers that preceded major presentations. "Maya, thank God you're here," Patricia called, emerging from her corner office with an armload of documents. "Cross Industries wants to expand the scope of their campaign. Instead of targeting just millennials, they're looking at a comprehensive, multi-generational approach. Mr. Cross was apparently impressed enough with your research methodology to request you lead the expanded analysis." Maya felt her knees weaken, slightly. Lead the analysis. With supervision, of course, but yes, this would be your project to manage. It's unprecedented for an intern to take point on an account this size, but Alexander Cross specifically asked for you. Patricia's expression grew serious. "Maya, this could make your career, but it could also end it if you're not prepared for the responsibility." "I'm ready," Maya said without hesitation, surprised by the certainty in her own voice. "When do we start?" "Right now. Conference Room A, full presentation setup. Cross and Morrison will be here in 20 minutes, along with their entire executive team. You'll be presenting your expanded research proposal to 7 of the most influential people in American business." Maya's stomach performed an elaborate gymnastics routine, but she managed to nod professionally. "I'll need my files from my desk and access to the demographic databases for additional research." "Already pulled and waiting in the conference room. Jake's been assigned as your research assistant." "Maya?" Patricia placed a hand on her shoulder. "I've been in this business for 26 years, and I've never seen a client specifically request an intern by name. Whatever you did in that first meeting, you made an impression. Don't waste it." Conference Room A had been transformed into what looked like mission control for a major advertising campaign. Multiple laptops connected to large monitors displayed charts, graphs, and demographic breakdowns. Jake sat at one end of the table surrounded by printouts and looking slightly overwhelmed. "Talk to me," Maya said, settling beside him and reviewing the materials he'd prepared. "I pulled all the data you requested, generational purchasing patterns, cross-demographic brand loyalty statistics, social media engagement metrics across age groups. The scope is massive, Maya. We're talking about a campaign that could reach 40 million potential consumers. Maya studied the numbers, her mind already organizing strategies and identifying key insights. Despite her nerves, she felt the familiar thrill of diving into complex data and finding patterns others might miss. The key is identifying common values that transcend generational boundaries, she murmured, making notes on her legal pad. Cross Industries isn't just selling products. They're selling innovation, sustainability, and quality of life improvements. We need to show how those core messages can be adapted for different audiences without losing authenticity. Rebecca's voice over the intercom interrupted her thoughts. Maya, your clients are here. Maya took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and prepared to face the man whose morning coffee she'd inadvertently relocated 4 weeks ago. Only this time, she was ready to prove she belonged in his business world. Alexander Cross entered the conference room with the same commanding presence she remembered, but today Maya noticed details she'd missed before. The way he paused to acknowledge each person individually, the subtle smile that softened his features when he listened, the complete attention he gave to whoever was speaking. This wasn't just a successful CEO. This was someone who understood that business was ultimately about people. Ms. Chen, he said as he took his seat across from her, I understand you've prepared an expanded analysis for us. Yes, sir. Based on your feedback from our previous meeting, I've developed a comprehensive multi-generational approach that maintains message consistency while adapting delivery methods for different demographic segments. What followed was the most intense hour of Maya's professional life. She presented research findings, fielded questions from executives who could buy and sell companies with casual signatures, and defended her recommendations against skeptical inquiries from people who'd built careers on questioning assumptions. Alexander Cross asked the most challenging questions, pushing her to consider implications she hadn't initially explored. But Maya found herself rising to meet each challenge, her confidence growing as she realized she genuinely understood the material better than anyone else in the room. Your analysis suggests that Generation Z consumers will respond differently to sustainability messaging than millennials, Cross said, leaning forward with interest. Can you elaborate on that distinction? Absolutely. Millennials tend to view sustainability as an ideal to aspire toward, something that makes them feel good about their choices. Generation Z, however, treats environmental responsibility as a baseline expectation. They're not impressed by companies that promote green initiatives. They're suspicious of companies that don't. The messaging needs to acknowledge that difference. Cross exchanged glances with his COO, David Morrison, who had been taking detailed notes throughout the presentation. And your recommendation for addressing that skepticism? Transparency and specificity. Instead of broad claims about environmental responsibility, provide concrete data about carbon footprint reduction, specific sustainability milestones, and measurable impacts. Gen Z consumers want proof, not promises. The meeting concluded with handshakes and professional pleasantries, but Maya sensed an undercurrent of excitement in the room. Patricia practically glowed with pride as she walked the executives to the elevator. As the conference room emptied, Maya began gathering her materials, still processing the surreal morning. She'd just presented a marketing strategy to one of America's most successful CEOs, the same man she'd accidentally assaulted with coffee a month ago. Ms. Chen, Maya looked up to find Alexander Cross standing in the doorway. Her heart hammered as she wondered if he was about to acknowledge their embarrassing first encounter. Excellent work today, he said simply. I look forward to seeing your full campaign proposal next week. He turned to leave, then paused. And Ms. Chen? That coffee incident from last month? Best accident that's happened to me in years. Before Maya could respond, he was gone, leaving her staring at the empty doorway with a mixture of mortification and something that felt surprisingly like hope. 6 months later, Maya stood in the same spot where she'd first collided with Alexander Cross, But this time she held 2 cups of coffee with steady hands and wore the confident smile of someone who'd found her place in the world. The Goldman & Associates building rose behind her, its glass facade reflecting the late afternoon sun and the bustling energy of Lower Manhattan. The Cross Industries campaign had exceeded everyone's expectations. Their multi-generational approach had resulted in a 34% increase in brand awareness across target demographics and had earned Goldman & Associates their largest account in company history. More importantly for Maya, it had earned her a full-time position as junior marketing strategist and recognition as one of the most promising young talents in the industry. She checked her watch. 4:47 p.m. Alexander Cross had suggested they meet at the coffee shop where their story began, ostensibly to discuss the quarterly campaign review. But something in his tone during their phone conversation earlier that week had suggested this meeting might be about more than business metrics. The coffee shop buzzed with its usual controlled chaos, but Maya navigated the crowd with practiced ease now. She'd learned to move through New York's rhythm rather than fighting against it, had discovered that confidence made all the difference between struggling and thriving in the city's relentless pace. 2 large coffees, black, she told. The barista, the same woman with purple streaks who'd served her that first fateful morning. The barista smiled with recognition. Maya had become a regular over the past months, often stopping by before important meetings for the ritual of caffeine and courage. Maya claimed a small table by the window, positioning herself where she could watch the sidewalk for Alexander's arrival. The past 6 months had transformed not just her career, but her understanding of the business world. She'd learned that success wasn't just about talent or hard work. It was about building relationships, understanding people, and finding ways to create value for everyone involved. Her relationship with Alexander Cross had evolved from mortified intern and accidentally assaulted CEO to something approaching professional partnership. He'd become an unexpected mentor, offering insights about the industry and occasionally sharing stories about his own early career mistakes. Maya had learned that even billionaire tycoons had once been young professionals struggling to prove themselves. Through the window, she spotted his familiar figure approaching through the evening crowd. Alexander Cross still commanded attention wherever he went, but Maya had learned to see past the expensive suits and media presence to the thoughtful leader who genuinely cared about the impact his company had on the world. He entered the coffee shop with characteristic efficiency, scanning the crowd until his eyes met hers. Maya raised her hand in greeting, indicating the extra coffee cup waiting on their table. "Ms. Chen," he said as he settled into the chair across from her, accepting the coffee with a slight smile. "Or should I say Ms. Maya Chen, Junior Marketing Strategist?" "Maya's fine," she replied, surprised by how natural the conversation felt. 6 months ago, she would have been tongue-tied in his presence. Now she found herself genuinely comfortable discussing business strategy with one of the most successful entrepreneurs in America. "I wanted to discuss the quarterly results with you," Alexander said, pulling out his phone to reference notes. "The campaign performance has been exceptional. Brand awareness is up 34%. Customer acquisition costs are down 18%. And we're seeing sustained engagement across all demographic segments." Maya nodded, pride swelling in her chest. "The cross-generational messaging strategy seems to be resonating exactly as we hoped. Each age group feels like the campaign speaks directly to their values without alienating other segments." "More than that," Alexander said, leaning forward slightly. "Your approach has changed how we think about marketing at Cross Industries. We're implementing similar strategies across all our product lines." The conversation flowed naturally from campaign metrics to industry trends to broader questions about the future of marketing in an increasingly connected world. Maya found herself sharing insights and opinions with the same confidence she'd bring to any professional discussion, marveling at how dramatically her perspective had shifted since that panicked morning 6 months ago. "I have a proposition for you," Alexander said as their conversation wound down. "Cross Industries is launching a new division focused on sustainable technology marketing. We need someone to head up the consumer research department, someone who understands both data analysis and human psychology. Maya's coffee cup paused halfway to her lips. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you an opportunity. The position would mean leaving Goldman & Associates, taking on significantly more responsibility, and working directly with our executive team to shape marketing strategy for products that could impact millions of lives. His expression grew serious. It would also mean working closely with me on a regular basis. I want to make sure you're comfortable with that, given our unconventional introduction. Maya set down her coffee cup and looked directly into those storm-gray eyes that had intimidated her so completely 6 months ago. Mr. Cross Alexander, that morning when I spilled coffee on you was the most embarrassing moment of my life, but it was also the beginning of the most incredible opportunity I've ever had. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I've learned more about business, about leadership, and about myself in the past 6 months than I did in 4 years of college. If you're willing to take a chance on someone who once used your shirt as a coffee filter, I'm ready to prove that accident was the best thing that ever happened to both of us. Alexander Cross smiled, not the polite professional expression Maya had grown accustomed to, but a genuine grin that transformed his entire face. I was hoping you'd say that. Welcome to Cross Industries, Maya. As they shook hands across the small table, Maya caught sight of their reflection in the coffee shop window. A successful executive and his newest department head, discussing the future over coffee in the heart of Manhattan. It was exactly the life she'd dreamed of during those late nights in the library, fueled by instant ramen and determination. The difference was that her dreams had never included accidentally assaulting her future boss with hot coffee. But as Alexander outlined her new responsibilities, and Maya felt excitement building for the challenges ahead, she realized that sometimes the best opportunities came from the most unexpected places. Sometimes the perfect storm wasn't something to survive. It was something to embrace. Outside the coffee shop window, the city hummed with its eternal energy. 8 million people pursuing their own dreams and ambitions. Maya Chen was no longer just another hopeful intern trying to find her place in the world. She was exactly where she belonged, coffee stains and all,